Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.
So to me, that's an example of building relationships. I think people are so impatient because you're not really thinking about what's advantageous for the other person. Right. And you're forgetting that your value doesn't expire.
Right.
I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. I bring you successful entrepreneurs, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm your host, Chaz Wilson. We are joined today with Aprille Franks. She is a leader, a coach, a speaker. She helps women build tribes and launch product service-based businesses so that they can create a life that they love by leveraging their entrepreneurial life. So everyone, please help me welcome Aprille to the show today. Hey, welcome from Jamaica today.
From Jamaica, yes.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, my honor. So Jamaica, are you there vacation for fun? How much time do you spend there?
I'm here just changing my work location. I just a little tired of the United States a little bit and wanted some new energy and get some island food and the water and the ocean and just be in a place that is helpful for creativity. If you see me looking up, it's because I'm looking at the ocean.
Oh wow, love that. Yeah. So let me just touch on that just for a second before we kind of jump into some other stuff. I think it's important for people to get up and move and to change location, to change their energy when they feel that. So that must have been something you were sensing and feeling, and you made that change. You just made a shift.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? It's interesting. Like during this time, there's a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses that are pivoting and doing things differently. Even this resort, I'm at the Jewel Grand right now. They're doing things differently too. In response to what's happening with the pandemic. And so absolutely, you know, when you have that sense of staleness, when you can't create, when, you know, you're uninspired in your own environment, I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to remove themselves, whether it's Jamaica or you redecorate your office or you go check into a hotel or you crash at a friend's extra bonus bedroom, but
right.
Something to kind of disrupt that monotonous pattern of things, just to kind of get your juices reflowing and be inspired again.
Yeah, and I think what it shows, and this is what I want the listeners to take right away, is it shows the ability to take control. Like, you have the ability to make decisions and take control of your destiny and not let it happen to you. And by you changing your environment, you were demonstrating that. A couple weeks ago, or actually a month and a half ago or so, my kids, just the homeschooling stuff, then they got out of school and I'm like, this has turned into like a 4-month vacation in some ways. We gotta shift this up. And so we booked a cabin, we went to the lake and spent a couple days, and it was amazing, that energy shift, not just for me, but for all of them. So kudos to you. And you said you're there for a month.
Yeah.
Well, good. Hey, so on this note, as I introduced you, as you're helping women build tribes and their product services businesses, help me understand sort of your drive for that, your why, and how did that start for you?
You know what? I'm passionate about it because growing up, it was a very interesting dynamic between the men and the women that I am related to. You know, There was a lot of trauma and abuse and things that really, negatively impacted me. And how I kind of repositioned that was saying, okay, if these women had more options, if they had more time, if they had things that they were interested in, if they had more money to make decisions for things that they needed, whether that was leaving those situations, or whatever it was, what tool could help a person do that, and number one, that's doing what you love. And then number two is, can it be helpful for other people? Is doing what you love monetizable? Can people get a result from you doing what you love? And if they can, how can we turn doing what you love into doing the thing you love and other people are willing to pay you for it because you're offering value? And so for me, when I look at this, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, we can truly create our own life. I grew up all over the world. I'm an Army brat. And the life that I'm living is not, I haven't seen this, besides on television where you can go and work somewhere for a month and you can, experience other cultures and you can be open about, who you are and sharing that with the world. We're still in new space. I know it feels like these platforms have been around for forever, but this is still really new. And I want women to know that, and men obviously can learn from what I'm saying, that the content is relevant to any business, but my heart is really helping women create amazing lives and doing that because they're creating successful businesses and they're happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, and you said that at the beginning because of your experiences in growing up. You talked about, I was just writing notes, your trauma and abuse and those things. So that sort of that mission becomes more powerful for you by focusing to help and empower women, and then it allows them to be empowered because now, when you said something, I just share this. What came to my mind is this ability to have their own business and take control of their situation gives them that freedom. Patrick Bet-David said on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, he said, the reason you need to make money, one of the reasons, not the reason, but one of the reasons, is so that people can't bully you. And I remember thinking, like, I've never really thought of it that way or heard of it that way. And I could imagine in the situation you're talking about is maybe sometimes the women feel like that you're speaking with, maybe they don't have that control or they don't have the empowerment to make a decision. They're stuck. Yeah.
And so that's the driver, right? The women that I work with, a lot of them are already six-figure earners in their careers. They're just not happy, right? Okay. A lot of them, just have things that they have been wanting to do for years, been scribbling it down, but haven't really been doing it. And I think it's important for people. I think happiness is really underrated. I think that we get kind of conditioned to just be in our routine and what looks good on the outside. And I'm really about just living a fulfilled life, whatever that looks like for you. My fulfillment is different from what is fulfilling to you. And I think people should be in the place of discovering what that looks like. That's housekeeping.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, this is real life. Like, if you need to let them know, we can always, this is real life. This is great. So, no, I love it. I love it. This is great. First of all, I love the mission that you're on. I think it's important. And I think it's timely. I think it's very timely right now for the help that women need. So when you're meeting with somebody, you said they're either not happy or they're trying to develop and help this come along. And so what are some of the things that you do to help women? So if we have a lot of female entrepreneurs listening to this show. What's something they should be considering thinking about, especially right now in the dynamics with this pandemic of how things are kind of playing out?
Well, one of the things, and I'm going to have to talk and walk because the housekeeping is very committed.
Yeah. This is good. This is real life, guys. This is exactly like what she's talking about. She's in Jamaica, living the life of an entrepreneur. This is great. I love it. So good.
They're super committed to making sure that their service is on point. So, some of the things that we do in order to make sure, number one, is really meeting people where they are and showing women a path, right? I think a lot of times it's so easy there's so many different ways of doing business, right? And the way that the women that are connected to me connect with me is because I've been very transparent in regards to my life and the journey of this online world, which is still super new, and building audiences and having people actually care about where you are. And so really just taking them through the journey of what does your audience need? What do they need from you and why are they connected to you? Because the truth is, just like you're listening to this podcast, there's tons of podcasts, but there is a reason why you're on Master Networks. There's a reason why you want to hear from Chaz and his guests. And so we help women find that reason. What is it about you that is attractive and will attract other people to you? Because it's really about your unique voice. And everything comes back to the tribe. Everything comes back to community. If it doesn't matter what the product is. And I often equate this to hotels. So I'm a hotel snob and I love hotels. Now, when I was younger, I'm 44 now, when I was 21 and just kind of out there, I may have checked in I've stayed at a Motel 6 before, right? Now I'm like, I need the Ritz-Carlton, I need fun, I need a view, I need, a suite. There's a reason why there is the Ritz-Carlton and Motel 6. It's
Yes.
because they're attracting who they want to attract for the brand. It's a very different, kind of
Very
feel.
different tribe. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
But they still work.
Yep.
It's still a room with a bed. But it's
Yep.
just, depending on who you're wanting to attract. And so we help women really find their voice so that it's authentic, and the people that are meant for them are going to be attracted to that. And that's really the start of the process. Before you get to launching and creating your programs and having events and speaking on stages, if you don't know what your message is and who you're talking to, then none of that other stuff matters. You'll end up spinning for years.
And everyone has that unique voice.
Everyone does.
They need someone like you sometimes to find it for them, though, in some ways, because they just think, well, who would listen to my story, or I'm not qualified enough, or what are some of the things you hear that people are saying to themselves? Because there's somebody listening right now that needs to hear what you're saying, but that conversation's already going in their head that, like, well, I've only ever made 100,000, or I've only ever made 50,000, or I didn't graduate college, or I've been a stay-at-home mom and now I've got this idea. Like, somebody needs to hear that. Those are the conversations going on right now.
And you know what? I appreciate you saying that. And when you just said, I don't have a degree, I don't have this. Let me tell you, it took me 3 years to make my first $1 million. This was in 2017. Mm-hmm. And when I recognized that all of the things, and one of my mentors, one of my older mentors, Tori Johnson from way back, she's on Good Morning America. You may have seen her on Deals and Steals. One of the things she said to me, we were working together, this was several years ago, and we were working on some things, and she was like, what you're saying to me isn't connecting. She's like, what are you not saying? And I was like, well, do you want to know that I'm adopted? I said, so I sent her a bullet point list. I said, well, I'm adopted. I dropped out of high school in the 12th grade. I was a teenage mom. I started working at this age, and I did this and this. And she was like, where the hell was all of this?
Yeah.
She's like, there's tons of coaches, but it's the resonance that people really need on from you, otherwise you just sound like a box,
right.
And when she said that, I was like, oh, okay. So I said,
that's
people
powerful.
care about? I'm like, people care about that?
Well, because it's that connection, right? It's that can connect to some part of your experience and your story. It makes you real, and it makes that connection happen, because I can get advice from lots of places, but when I feel a connection to someone or something, to that movement that you have, that's where people then become attracted to that. You've basically made, call it your message, right? It's the things that you've gone through now become your message, and that I wrote down earlier, you said that transparency to it.
Yeah.
And so,
and not being ashamed too, Chaz, right? Because I think a lot of people, men and women both, I think people naturally live in a lot of shame, ashamed that they were fired,
for
or
sure.
that they had to file bankruptcy, or that their marriage didn't work, or that they aren't spending as much time with their kids as they, just all this shame, kind of running around. And then we start as humans beating ourselves up. And it's interesting how dynamic we all are, in that we can be going through all these different things in life and experiencing these things and still want to help people.
Right.
And still want to be great. And even in spite of it, you're like, man, I went through that and that was hard as hell, but God, if I could just tell other people that they can make it through. I think that's just super powerful for us to be. And I think that really speaks to the, just how amazing humanity can really be when we really put our minds to it. And so for us and the people that we work with, that's really what it's about. It's really about you being okay with, like you said, your mess, and how can we turn that into something that is tangible and helpful for other people, so that, it's healing, I think, for the leaders, and it's healing for the audience. Even when you're talking about product launches, there's so much resistance in success.
Yes.
and people, they don't call it that, but it's just resistance. It's,
why?
People get used to what they've been doing.
Is that why? That's the resistance, because they just get used to, why do you think there's resistance there?
I think people don't believe that they deserve it and that they can have it.
Yeah, it's interesting, probably because from a very young age there's so much stuff we're told, right? And often by well-meaning people. Like, it's right. You need to do this to deserve that, and it's maybe the idea is to motivate or move people in a direction, or kids or whatever, but the reality is over time we're told that, and so we start to adopt this identity that we don't deserve that piece of that. Guys, we're listening to Aprille Franks. She's going to share some real wisdom right now. By the way, how can people find you and connect with you on social media before we dive into that next point?
It's all about Instagram right now. So you can find me at Epic Aprille, EPICAPRILLE.
All right, hit her up on Instagram there. So walk me through that. How do you think this happens for people and such that they don't deserve it? And then how do they overcome that so they change that mindset?
I think it's just conditioning. We're all people just working, trying to feed their families, trying to snatch a little piece of enjoyment in this thing called life. And I think that we just, over the time, we start believing these lies about ourselves, and they seem so sexy and real. It's like, sure, I take my own life, for example. I am 44 years young. I have been divorced. I am in a relationship. I have a daughter who's 21, a daughter who's 25, a granddaughter who's 2. I buried my father 2 years ago. I retired my mother 2 years ago. And I live a life that, according to society, should not be happening. I don't have a college degree. I never got a GED. Yet I'm still in the top 1 percentile of income earners in the country.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And what it says to me is that it's really your will. All the things that validate you should be a failure, they could be real, right? It would give us a nice excuse to say, you know what? I don't have to be successful. I could just sit back and feel sorry for myself. I have tons of reasons why I should be in this position. But that's no fun.
Right. So when you hear those stories, though, what people typically do is then they start to look for evidence that it's real. So they start to look for all the things in their life that, like, oh, see, that validates I'm not deserving of that, right?
Yeah.
Whatever those may be. But you've taken a different route to say, here's what I want it to look like, and I'm going to decide that it looks like this, and so I'm going to make that happen in that sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to transition just slightly on this because our audience understands the value of relationship building and networking through that process. They understand that the significant things they have in their life have come through relationships.
Absolutely.
How have you used relationships and created and developed relationships? Number one, how do you do that for you? And then number two, how have you developed a network that's helped you grow the business side? We'll kind of transition. I wanted people to get to know you, just so you know how I did this. I wanted people to get to know who you were first before we jumped into your business. So,
well, let's get into the business, Chaz. I'm here for it.
Let's do it. So how do you build your network, and how has that made an impact on your business?
Let me tell you something. My relationships and my business is everything. I speak to, so number one, first of all, I think it's really important for everyone to be clear on the value you bring to the table to any environment. There is no intimidation here, right? Someone is better at you, is better than you at something. Yes. That's good, right? We don't need to be gifted in all the areas.
Right.
My superpower is galvanizing people and finding the money. That's what people pay me for, right? Now, when I understand what my superpower is, and I also am clear on my gaps, right? If I'm clear on my gaps, so my gaps is I'm not in the details, okay? I'm not her. I'm not the person that's gonna send the follow-up email. I have a team for that. I'm not the person that's gonna create the spreadsheet. I have a COO who loves that. She loves that.
Yeah.
And you know what she hates? She hates what I have to do. She doesn't want to be on a podcast interview. She doesn't want to go live. She doesn't want to create, but you know what she wants to do? She wants to take my vision and execute on that. And so I think it's important when you're building relationships just to know what you bring to the table. So you always know that there's value that you're bringing value into anything that you're inserting yourself into. And then when you're wanting to connect with people, build relationships with others, you got to see what's also in it for them. It can't just be all about you. And I'll give you a really great example that just happened this morning, actually. So a year ago, Chaz, I was on a panel in LA at a conference by Zenobia Andrews, and Amy Porterfield was on that.
Oh, yeah.
Same panel. After that, after the event was over, I met with her outside and I said, hey, I really want to connect with you because of X. I think that we should connect. I would love to have more of a diverse conversation. And she was like, oh my God, so do I. So over the last year, we've been nurturing that relationship. Well, we're on a text call basis now. And she used my last text about 20 minutes before this. And I said, good morning, Amy, from the islands of Jamaica. She's like, send me pictures. And so we're chatting back and forth. And I said, I have an ask. I would love for you to be on my X thing that's happening on this date. Can you say yes? She was like, yes, I can say yes.
That's great.
So to me, that's an example of building relationships. I think people are so impatient because you're not really thinking about what's advantageous for the other person. Right. And you're forgetting that your value doesn't expire.
Right.
So people are so wanting third base. They're so wanting third base. They're not into the courting.
So true. Well, and it's become, I talk about this, so like, even when you look at technology in the dating world right now, it's like swipe left, right. I mean, it's like that instant, and that's how people treat networking. They want to go, what's the opportunity right now? No, that's not how this is going to work for most people, because as you just said, your value doesn't expire. Well, you don't know where that value is going to show up and when you need it and when they need it. I love that experience. I love that example. A year in the making.
A year in the making.
Yes.
It was June of last year, of 2019. And most people would have given up and said, forget it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's other relationships that I've nurtured. Shalene Johnson's going to be the keynote on my virtual summit.
Love that.
That's another nurturing relationship.
Yeah.
You know, other people you've never heard of as well, nurturing relationships that are really successful, men and women. And I think people have to recognize that you can't be so thirsty.
So true. I want to pick up on two things you said, though.
Okay.
Let's see if I can remember them before it escapes me. Two things. One is, I doubt you started in that game, when I call it a game, the game of networking, with like this intention of someday she's going to give me something and I'm going to be able to get something from her. You sound like you're the person that builds those relationships, and if something happens, great. And many of them haven't, and that's fine too. So guys, don't be in it just for this like con game of like, well, at some point I'm going to get something, so I'm going to keep this. Because here's the other part of it. So actually I lied. There's three. The other thing you just said was you named names that people would know. You also said there's names of people they wouldn't know. And I want people to be careful, because sometimes they see things like this in business and networking and they get the wrong idea, like, oh, big fish or big name. I'm going to go be friends with this person. And they'll pass on people who don't quite have the name today.
Like me.
Huge mistake. Or
Everyone
like me.
doesn't know me, but I'm a fantastic person to know.
That's right.
Right? I helped a guy in Hungary, amazing dude, and he was super brilliant, but he was struggling with a few things. And after 1 hour, he was like, I implemented everything you said, and I made an extra $30,000.
Wow.
I'm going to turn that into, he was like, within 2 weeks. I talked to another client. He was in, because I work with men too. He's in Colombia, in Medellin. And prior to me working with him, he had made $4,000 the previous month. After working with me within that 30 days from that date, exactly 30 days, he sent me a screenshot and he'd made $29,000.
Wow. See,
so
you're helping people everywhere.
Yeah, it's not about big fish. It's about all of the fish. And how can you find value everywhere? And I think that's the thing. Like, you can't fast forward through this stuff, because people that are really successful, we know, and we feel it, and we can feel desperation, and we can feel when you're authentic versus when you're not. You know, that's one thing that I love to do, especially people that have animals, I love to send them gifts for their animals. So if someone has a dog and I know that they're really a dog person, I'm gonna send a gift with a card to the person and a gift for Fifi or whatever the dog's name is.
Right.
I think people forgot how to build relationships, and you wonder why people are fast tracking. It's because they're willing, and you see these joint venture partnerships. It's because they were willing to find what's valuable on all sides.
So true. God, I can think of, and my mind's flooding now of examples of that. And so there's some real wisdom here. I hope everyone listening, you're taking note of this. There's some real wisdom. I joked with somebody recently that in the office, they joke and call me the Cookie Monster, which I really need to quit telling people that. Now I just broadcast it. Because the problem is when I'm trying to eat healthy, then people send me cookies because they think that's like, hey, Chaz, great to meet you. Here's cookie delivery. And so somebody sent some to my house. First of all, they must have called the office and got my house address, but they sent them to my house. My wife is like, you really got to stop telling people because these cookies just show up, right? So to your point, but I love the gesture. Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
sure.
The gesture of it is, look, they care and they're trying to say, hey, thanks for your time, or thanks for coming out and doing this thing, or whatever. Yeah. And that stuff goes a long way.
It does. My tribe had a fixation with gummy bears. So I grew up in Germany, and so we call them gummies. And I used to eat them all the time until now I can't because of my teeth. Like, they would not stop. I was like, listen, I just mentioned it. Stop it with the gummy bears.
But they're trying to, like, I get it, right? They're trying to say, hey, I value you. Right?
Yes.
But there's a real big lesson here, and I just experienced this recently. I had somebody who I've become friends with, real friends, and it took time, just like anything else. And everyone wants to know, well, how'd you get connected? Very simple. Started a conversation, this, that, and the other. Then I went out, and when I was going out to his area, he's like, hey, why don't you stay at my house? Well, I took him up on that offer. Why? Because we got to spend some time together. And then during that conversation, he mentioned a couple of things that he was interested in. And so then I shipped something out to him afterwards. And again, this isn't pat on the back. I'm just demonstrating. I'm learning this. I'm learning it right now. And I'm sharing that I'm learning it too, to say, what is the value that this person has? What do I bring to that equation? And then build on that, you guys. And that's the key. So,
absolutely.
So last segment I want to transition to. So someone listening today, why should they, if they're listening today going, I really resonate with you, and I'm like, gosh, I really feel a connection drawn somehow. That happens with many of my guests, almost all of them. Someone listening says, that's who I connect with. What should they be considering right now that you could potentially help them with? I know you don't know them. I know you don't know their situation. Yeah. But what could you bring to that conversation, and why should somebody reach out to you? Who are you looking for?
I think the person should be asking themselves, are they happy with where they are? Are you happy with where you are in your business? And have you hit a roadblock? And if you feel like you've hit a roadblock because you're not connecting, because you're unclear on how to connect, because you've connected, but you can't convert, then that's a conversation that I would love to have with someone, because the truth of the matter is we have so much on the line with these brands and these businesses and these entities that we've created, and our personal success is relying on them. Our families they need them to work.
Yes. And in many ways, they've become our identity.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot at stake here. And so I take it very seriously. Like I said, I retired my mother because I can.
So amazing.
And my mother hasn't worked since February 3rd, 2018. My father died May 2nd, 2018. And she was able to really spend those last 90 days with him because she didn't have to worry about money.
Wow.
And she still doesn't. I take care of everything,
wow, good for
and you know what I'm saying? And to me, that's why. And so if you're that person, you're like, I don't know. You may be saying, I want more. I don't know why I want more, but you just want more. And it's not about material things. It's really just about your level of joy. Like, are you really happy? Are you stressed out? Are you living, is there this angst with, you going and trying to do this thing every day and it's just not working the way that you think that it should, the way that you see that it is for others? That's the type of person that I would like to talk to.
So good. I hope everyone listening, I imagine they have. It's something I picked up on, and I think we're trying to gather exactly how many episodes of this that it'll be, but I've done of this show. I've done over 120 episodes, and have been in the networking space for over 10 years with this company that we started. I can tell you something that's interesting, and you guys probably listening picked up on this. There are people who teach and talk theory. There's people who teach principles that they buy into and they believe, but they don't execute on a daily basis. What I pick up from you is everything you're talking about is what you're living. It's what you do. It's not like, oh, here's this thing I teach over here, but I kind of dabble in it myself.
Yeah.
No, this is you. You're authentically who you are, which is probably what attracts people to you.
Yeah. This is I always tell people, I'm just giving you the roadmap I'm on, and let's go together. I may be a few exits, ahead of you, but we're still going to meet at the water cooler, and we're still in the same space, and for me, honestly, I was sitting on the patio the other night, and they were doing some sort of performance, and I was just thinking, I just had an immense sense of gratitude because according to the world, this is not supposed to be happening. Right. And I love that. I love the underdog. I love the person that's counted out. I love it when, the women are counted out or the minorities are counted out. I just love it because it's just not true.
Right.
You really get to rewrite your own destiny. And it sounds so cliche and woo-woo, but as I'm sitting here in this suite looking at the ocean, because you're my last thing today. It's 12:36 in Jamaica.
Wow.
And I'm going to put on a swimsuit and I'm going to sit on the beach.
Good for you.
And I feel like for me, that's life. For someone else, it may be something else. And I think us grabbing that, I swear, we'd be just so much more happier, if we could really do the things that we really wanted to do and we weren't just worked out all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting you said something, and I kind of want to wrap on this because I think it's powerful. All of those, again, pick anything you've heard. It doesn't matter. That's going to count you out. Whatever it is for you listening today, whatever that thing is for you, right? I didn't graduate college. Whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. Again, you mentioned several. It can be true if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be true.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't have to mean anything. Chad.
Right. It doesn't. Yeah, I love that point, and that's powerful, and I appreciate the message. I know that what you shared today, someone, if probably more, but someone listening to this is going to be changed by what you shared today. So thank you for that, and appreciate that. Again, share your Instagram page so people can connect with you, Aprille.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, for one, and thanks for creating this platform for entrepreneurs to be able to connect and learn. I think it's fantastic, and congratulations on your over 100 and some odd episodes.
Yeah, thank you.
You all can connect with me on Instagram at Epic Aprille, and that's EPIC, Aprille, APRILLE. And life is a party.
I love it. Guys, remember, every Monday, noon Central, I bring you successful entrepreneurs, just like today, just like the conversation we had today, where they're going to share sometimes their mess that they've turned into a message, sometimes the ups, the downs, the struggles, so you can see behind the curtain, if you will, of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Join me every Monday, noon Central, right here on the Master Networks Facebook page for another episode. Till then, we'll connect, share, and prosper. Be well, everyone.
Stop hoping for your business to grow and start mastering the formula for success that every entrepreneur needs to grow their business. Join us for 5+1 Mastery, where every week we go in depth on how to grow your business the right way. Learn more at 5+1mastery.com.